I can't stop thinking about what happened last night. Maybe someone here will tell me I'm not crazy, but I swear, I came way too close to something awful. I was driving home from my girlfriend's house in Coventry, Rhode Island, heading back to my apartment in Providence. It's about a 30-minute drive, mostly along Route 44. It was around midnight and the highway was kind of empty. Just a Spotify playlist to keep me company. The first half of the drive was uneventful, peaceful even. But when I got past Shepeshe, where the road narrows and trees start crowding in on both sides, things got weird. As I came around a bend near Pulaski State Park, I saw a car pulled over on the shoulder. Its hazard lights were blinking, and there was a guy standing next to it, waving his arms like he needed help. I thought it was someone stranded. It's late, it's cold, and the nearest gas station is miles away. But as I slowed down to take a better look, something about the situation was suspicious. The guy wasn't dressed for the weather, no coat, no hat. He kept glancing toward the woods, like he was nervous about something out there. And then I noticed movement in the shadows behind him. At least 2 other people were crouched just past the tree line, barely visible in my headlights. My gut screamed, "Don't stop!" I swerved back into the lane and hit the gas, speeding past them. As I did, I glanced in my rearview mirror and saw the guy sprinting toward the car. A second later, their headlights came on, and they started following me. My heart was pounding as I flew down Route 44, trying to stay calm but failing miserably. The car behind me was getting closer, its headlights bouncing in my mirror. I didn't know what to do. Pulling over wasn't an option, and calling 911 felt useless while they were right on my tail. About a mile down the road, I saw another car coming toward me. For a second, I felt relief, thinking it might scare them off. But as it got closer, I realized it wasn't just another driver, it was their car. They were working together. One car behind me, another in front. I panicked and floored it, hoping I could make it to the rotary near Greenville where there's more traffic and businesses. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely keep the wheel steady. The car in front of me was slowing down, trying to box me in, but I wasn't about to stop. At the last second, I veered onto the shoulder and sped past them. My car skidded a little, but I managed to hold it together. By the time I hit the lights near Smithfield, they were gone. I pulled into a gas station parking lot near the Apple Valley Mall and just sat there, shaking. My phone was in my lap, but I couldn't even unlock it. I was too freaked out to think straight. Eventually, I drove the rest of the way home, constantly checking my mirrors. I didn't see them again, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. When I got to my apartment, I locked everything and sat in the dark, trying to figure out what just happened. The more I think about it, the scarier it gets. If I had stopped, I don't think I'd be writing this right now. I've heard stories about people using fake breakdowns to trap drivers, but I never thought I'd see it firsthand, let alone in a place I've driven through my whole life. It's insane to think how quickly a normal night can flip into something, straight out of a nightmare. So yeah, if you're ever driving alone at night, especially on roads like Route 44, don't stop. Even if it looks like someone needs help, keep going and call it in. It's not worth the risk. Stay safe out there. You ever randomly think about something from your childhood and realize it was way more serious than you understood at the time? Yeah, that happened to me last night, and now I can't stop replaying it in my head. So, I grew up in Portland, Oregon. This happened when I was probably 7 or 8. Back then, my family lived near Forest Park, and we'd spend weekends hiking or playing around in the woods. My parents thought it was important for me to enjoy nature and not just sit around watching cartoons. Typical millennial parenting. One Saturday, we went to this spot near Balch Creek. It wasn't a proper trail, more like a dirt path that my dad swore was a shortcut to the best view. My mom was skeptical, but she went along with it because that's just how they were. My little brother was still in a stroller, so it was mostly me and my dad climbing ahead while she struggled with the wheels in the mud. I remember it being a cool, cloudy day. The trees were so tall, they made everything feel darker, like we were in some secret forest. I was hyped, pretending I was on a treasure hunt or something, jumping over puddles and climbing on fallen logs. At some point, the path narrowed and ran alongside a steep slope. I didn't think much of it back then, but now I realize how sketchy it was. The dirt was loose, the kind of surface where one wrong step could send you sliding. My dad told me to be careful, but he wasn't hovering. He was ahead, checking out the trail. And then it happened. I stepped on this patch of dirt that crumbled under my foot. The next thing I knew, I was sliding down the slope, grabbing at roots and rocks, trying to stop myself. It wasn't a straight drop, more like a really steep hill. But to 7-year-old me, it felt like I was falling off a cliff. I remember screaming, my hands getting scraped up as I clawed at anything to slow down. My mom was yelling my name, and my dad was sprinting back toward me. I hit something hard, a rock maybe, and finally stopped sliding. I was just lying there, shaking, too scared to move. Here's the thing I didn't realize until last night. The bottom of that slope was a stream, not a cute, babbling brook. More like fast-moving water with sharp rocks sticking out everywhere. If I hadn't stopped where I did, I probably would have been swept away, or worse. Back then, I didn't think of it as a near-death experience. My dad climbed down, scooped me up, and carried me back to the trail. My mom was freaking out, checking my arms and legs for injuries, but I only had some scrapes and a bruise on my hip. To me, it was just an embarrassing moment, where I got dirty and scared and ruined our hike. We went home, and by the next day, I was telling my friends at school about how I slid down a mountain like it was some epic adventure. My parents didn't even bring it up again, other than to say I needed to be more careful on hikes. Fast forward to last night. I was scrolling through Instagram and saw a post about some guy who fell into a river during a hike and had to be rescued. The picture showed a trail that looked eerily similar to the one near Balch Creek, and it just triggered this flood of memories. That's when it hit me. If I hadn't stopped sliding when I did, I wouldn't have been okay. 7-year-old me had no concept of how bad that could have gone. But adult me? I can't stop thinking about it. Like, what if that rock hadn't been there? What if I'd slid all the way into the water? Would my parents have been able to get to me in time? I didn't know how to swim back then. The current was fast enough that even now, I don't think I could have fought it. The more I think about it, the more I realize how close I came to not making it out of that day. A patch of dirt, a split-second slip, and my whole life could have ended before it even really started. I guess it's weird realizing your own mortality through something that happened so long ago. At the time, it didn't even register as scary once it was over. Anyway, I don't know why I'm sharing this here. Maybe I just needed to get it out of my head. Or maybe someone else has had one of those delayed realizations and can relate. Either way, thanks for reading. And if you've got kids, maybe keep them off random dirt path. I wasn't supposed to be there. That thought looped through my mind as I stood still, adrenaline making my hands shake. This wasn't some spooky night hike in the middle of nowhere or an ill-advised adventure gone wrong. Nope. It was just another Tuesday evening in Seattle, or so I thought, and I had stopped at a 24-hour gas station after work because my car's tire pressure warning had popped up. It started off so mundane. I'd pulled into the Chevron on Aurora Avenue, half zoning out to a podcast, trying to calculate whether I'd make it home in time to watch the new episode of The Bear with my girlfriend. The lights were flickering in that annoying way cheap gas stations have, and there were maybe 2 other cars in the lot. It felt perfectly uneventful until it didn't. I heard a sharp crack as I was finishing up the air in my front tire. I first thought I had somehow messed up the pressure gauge in some way. Then it came to me once more. This time, louder. A gunshot. The drowsy gas station felt like the worst place in the world when that realization hit me like ice water. I ducked behind my car and peeked out toward the sound. There was a man in a hoodie standing by the station's convenience store door, yelling at someone inside. He was holding a gun, and it wasn't one of those moments where you could think, maybe it's fake. No, this was the real deal. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but his body language screamed rage. Another shot was fired. couldn't tell if he'd shot at the ceiling or someone inside, but either way, I was officially panicking. You know those fight or flight moments people talk about? Turns out there's a third option: freeze. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. All I could think about was how exposed I was. My car wasn't parked near the store, thank God, but I was only a few feet away from the air pump, out in the open. If this guy turned around, he'd see me. I stayed crouched there, my legs cramping and my brain cycling through every bad decision I'd ever made that led me to this exact spot. Then, suddenly, the yelling stopped. The guy in the hoodie stormed out of the store. I wanted to get the hell out of there, but something about the way he moved told me to stay put. He wasn't looking for witnesses yet. Instead, he headed for a silver Honda parked at an angle by the dumpster. He got in and sped off so fast the tires screeched. As soon as he was gone, I stood up, legs shaking so badly I almost fell over. I wasn't even thinking straight. I just wanted to get out of there. But as I stumbled toward my car, the door to the convenience store opened and a woman stepped out. Her face was pale, and there was blood on her arm. "Call 911!" she screamed. I fumbled for my phone, fingers slipping over the screen as I dialed. While I waited for the operator, I asked her if she was okay. She nodded, then leaned against the doorframe like she was about to collapse. "It's not my blood," she said. "It's the cashier's." The next 10 minutes were a blur. Cops arrived. Paramedics showed up. I gave my statement to an officer. Apparently, the guy had tried to rob the store and fired at the cashier when they didn't move fast enough. I'll never forget the way the woman looked when they brought her out on a stretcher, barely conscious, blood soaking through her shirt. She couldn't have been older than 25. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the guy's gun or the cashier's pale face. I kept hearing the sound of those gunshots over and over again. I've replayed the whole thing in my head 1,000 times since then, wondering what would have happened if he'd noticed me, crouched behind my car. Would I have been just another unlucky witness caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? It's been a few months now, and I still haven't gone back to that gas station. Can't even drive past it without feeling my chest tighten. People always say life is short, but until you feel it teetering on the edge, it's just a cliche. Let me tell you, it's not. I'm typing this at 5 a.m. My hands are shaking, and I haven't stopped looking over my shoulder. It happened, and I genuinely don't know how I got out of it alive. I work nights at a little bar, nothing special. Just your run-of-the-mill dive where locals like to stop off after work. It was Thursday night, so it was pretty dead. Around midnight, my manager told me to close up early since there were barely any customers. I wasn't mad about it. I could use the extra sleep. I finished cleaning up, cashed out the till, and headed out the back door into the parking lot. Let me paint the picture. The parking lot is small, just a few spots tucked behind the building, and it's sketchy as hell. There's one flickering light above the dumpster and nothing else but pitch black shadows. My car was parked in the far corner, which immediately pissed me off because I hate walking across that lot at night. I've always gotten weird vibes there, like someone's watching, but I brush it off because I don't want to seem paranoid. I unlocked my car, hopped in, and locked the doors immediately because duh. I started scrolling on my phone for a minute, waiting for the engine to warm up. That's when I heard a tapping noise. I barely noticed it, but then it got louder. It was coming from behind me. A chill ran down my spine. My stomach dropped, and I didn't dare look into the rearview mirror. Something in my brain just started screaming, "Don't look!" I thought, maybe it's a branch or something, but the sound was too precise, like knuckles against glass. After what felt like hours, I turned my head just enough to glance at the back window. Nothing. Just darkness. I let out this shaky, nervous breath, trying to laugh it off. Maybe I was overtired and my brain was messing with me. I put my phone down, shifted the car into reverse, and started backing out. That's when I saw a face, pale, hollow-eyed, and pressed against the passenger side window. I slammed on the brakes so hard, I almost gave myself whiplash. I felt like my heart stopped. For a split second, I just stared at it. The face stared back, mouth slightly open, eyes wide, like they were looking through me. And then, I kid you not, it freaking smiled. I can't explain the smile. It wasn't human. Too big, too stretched, like someone trying to mimic a smile, but getting it wrong. My body just reacted, I slammed the car into drive and hit the gas. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to get out of there. The second I floored it, I heard a loud thud on the roof, like something had jumped on top of the car. I screamed, full-on screamed. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the wheel, but I didn't stop. No way. I didn't look in the mirrors. I didn't look back. I just drove. It wasn't until I was a few blocks away that I finally pulled over, gasping for breath. My whole body was trembling, adrenaline pumping like crazy. Eventually, I got out to check the car, bracing for dents, scratches, something, but there was nothing. Like, it never even happened. But I know what I saw, and I don't know who or what that was, and I don't want to find out. I called my manager and told them I'm never closing a loan again. They probably think I'm crazy, but I don't care. I've never felt fear like that in my life, and I'm not about to tempt fate. If anyone has an explanation, rational or not, please drop it in the comments because I can't wrap my head around this. For now, every single light in my house is on, and there's no way I'm sleeping tonight. So this happened last week, and I still can't believe I'm alive to write about it. Nothing about the night was weird. I just finished binging Succession for the third time, don't judge me, and I was feeling all responsible, thinking, hey, let me take the trash out before I sleep for the night. I live in Atlanta in an apartment complex with one of those giant dumpsters you have to walk to at the edge of the parking lot. It was close to midnight, but I wasn't nervous or anything. My complex is well lit, and there's usually someone outside smoking or walking their dog. Except this time, it was empty. Whatever, I thought. I grabbed the trash bag, slipped on my slides, and headed out. Halfway to the dumpster, I realized I'd forgotten my phone. That little voice in my head went, should you go back and grab it? But I shrugged it off. I mean, I was 50 feet from my apartment door. What could possibly happen? Famous last words, right? The second I reached the dumpster, I heard a soft shuffle coming from behind me. I figured it was just one of my neighbors. I mean, it's a shared dumpster. People use it all the time. But when I turned around, I didn't see anyone. The lot was empty. My skin prickled, but I told myself it was probably just wildlife. I tossed the bag in and started walking back toward my building. That's when I heard it again. Footsteps. Not casual ones either. They were quick, heavy, like someone was power walking in my direction. I whipped around so fast I almost tripped over my own feet, and that's when I saw him. A guy, maybe late 30s with a scruffy-ass beard and wearing a black jacket, was coming straight at me. Not running, but walking fast, like he knew exactly what he was doing. My brain short-circuited for a second, like, is this happening? Is he just out for a walk? But then I noticed the look in his eyes. Predatory. Cold. I panicked. The logical part of me was like, play it cool. Walk fast, but don't run. But every instinct screamed, run. I started speed walking, keeping my eyes on my building, praying the motion lights by my apartment door would flip on and scare him off. They didn't. The footsteps got louder. I didn't dare look back again. When I was maybe 15 feet from my place, I heard his voice for the first time. Hey, stop for a second, he shouted. It wasn't a request, it was an order. That's when I broke into a full sprint. My slides were slapping against the pavement, and I was terrified I'd trip. The sound of his footsteps was right behind me now. I fumbled with my keys, hands shaking so badly it took me 3 tries to get the door unlocked. I got inside, slamming the door shut and locking it just as he reached it. And then, it was suddenly silent. No banging, no shouting, nothing. I looked through the peephole, but he wasn't there. I stayed there for like 13 minutes, listening, waiting. When I finally worked up the nerve to peek out the window, the parking lot was empty. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but the real nightmare started the next morning. When I stepped outside to go to work, there was something wedged in the doorframe, a note. It was written on the back of an old receipt, and it just said, "See you soon." I reported it to the complex manager and the police, but they were pretty dismissive. Probably just a prank, one of the officers said. A prank? Who leaves a note like that after chasing someone? It's been a week and nothing else has happened, but I've been on edge every single night. I triple check all my locks, and I've started carrying pepper spray when I take the trash out. I even bought a Ring camera, which I stare at way too much now. This guy wasn't someone I knew. He didn't say anything specific that would give me a clue about what he wanted. He just showed up, out of nowhere, and ruined my sense of safety in a place I'm supposed to feel secure. So yeah, that's my story.